Hi everyone, welcome back to Crampton Family Vlogs. My name is Alexandra. So today I am showing you how I make pork enchiladas. I made some cilantro lime rice, and then I made some chunky guacamole. If you guys aren't already subscribed, please go ahead and click the red subscribe button and hit the bell button to turn on your post notifications. Every time we post a video, you guys will be notified. Thanks for watching. Okay, so for my guacamole, the very first thing that I start with is an onion. You can do white onion or a yellow onion. I have just found that the red onion makes the guacamole taste better. Obviously, if you don't like something that I'm adding, you don't have to include it. I'm just showing you how I like to make my guacamole. I rinsed my cilantro earlier. I'm not going to use all of this for the guacamole. I'm only going to use some of it. So I'm making cilantro lime rice later, and since I already have it out, I'm just going to chop all of it now. So I roll it up, almost like how you would roll a burrito, and then I make slices. So like almost like I'm cutting a sushi roll. So for the cilantro lime rice, I'm going to save this for later. And for my guacamole, where I already have my onions, I'm going to add more of this. I do eyeball it every time. I just kind of know by looking at it. I'm adding the rest of that cilantro to the container for the rice. Now, I will warn you while you're chopping your jalapeno that I have burned my hands before doing this. So I want you guys to be very careful and kind of pay attention to how I'm cutting the jalapeno. So I'm careful that I don't get too much of the seeds on me. So the seeds do have like a chemical, which I will look it up and put it in the comments for you guys, that burns your skin. So you want to be super careful. So I'm being very careful not to touch any of the seeds. Depending on how much guacamole I'm making for how many people, which it's just me and Jordan, I'm not adding too much jalapeno. You can add any kind of pepper that you want. Like even if you didn't want it spicy, you could probably use a bell pepper. So I'm just gonna scoot this over to the side. And I'm gonna clean my knife just to make sure that I don't have any seeds. So it is still going to be spicy because of the jalapeno, the actual jalapeno, but it's not going to be as hot as it would be with the seeds in there. So I just julienne the jalapeno long ways, and then I cut it short ways. This is the only thing when I'm chopping that I'm very particular with, making sure that I make small, precise cuts, because nobody wants like a humongous bite of jalapeno. Now I'm just going to slide this into my bowl. So now I'm just getting my lime. I like using fresh citrus juice versus like canned or like the bottle citrus juice every time. It just tastes way better to me. You could use the bottled juice, but it just wouldn't taste as fresh to me in my opinion. And I'm just going to run my spoon. If you guys eat avocados, you can tell how ripe this was by how easy it was for me to take out. So I got 4 avocados for this guacamole. So now that I have this already, I'm going to add my spices in there. I'm going to show you guys in my hand how much I'm adding, and I do season to taste. So I'm going to use that much pepper. This much garlic. this much salt. About that much paprika. This is cayenne pepper. Actually put too much, so I'm just gonna do a pinch of cayenne because I already have, let's do 2 pinches. I already have the hot from the jalapeno, and I don't want it to be extremely spicy to where you don't want to eat it. This is chili powder. And if you'll notice, I'm doing a lot of the same flavors that I did on the pork. Pinch of chili powder. I'm actually not a big fan of chili powder, but it does add a nice flavor. All right, so this is how everything looks. And I'm just gonna smash it with my fork. And then I just wanted to show you guys the ratio as well. So if you see, every single bite is gonna have onion, jalapeno, cilantro, and all the flavors in there. That way it's not just every couple bites you get some of that. I like the crunch from the onion and the heat from the jalapeno in every bite. So the first thing that I did was I added about 1.5 pounds pork roast that was about this big. And if you follow me on Instagram, then you know I dropped a whole jar of salsa while I was trying to film this. If you're not following me on Instagram, Crampton_Alexandra. So this is the consistency of the salsa. It's not too thick, it's not too runny, it's just right. So I added half of a jar of that. I added a teaspoon of salt. I added a couple pinches, just a couple pinches of chili powder. I added garlic powder, not garlic salt, because this, what we added, the chicken bouillon, is already super salty, so you don't want to over salt your meat, and then when you're putting the cheese on top and the sauce, it's going to make for a really salty dish, so you don't want to add too much salt. I added about 3 tablespoons of this, added 2/3 of a cup of water, and then I added a heaping spoonful of paprika. And if you guys look over here, I put it on high for about 4 hours, and this is the consistency of the meat. I'm going to show you guys how easy it is to shred this. So you should be able to shred this very easily and have it just breaking apart when you check it. So I'm actually going to take this out and put it on a cutting board and shred it because it's much easier than doing it with all the liquid around it. Okay, so now that all of our meat is shredded, I'm going to add it back into the crock pot because not all of the meat got to absorb all of the flavors, and it's going to add a much better flavor to the meat when you let it sit in the juice for a little bit. Just breaking up a few bigger chunks that I'm seeing. I don't want a bunch of big chunks of meat in my enchiladas. Okay, so the next thing that I'm going to do the tortillas is I'm going to get the largest baking dish I can get, and I'm going to spray it with vegetable oil or Pam or whatever you guys have on hand. This just ensures that the enchiladas on the bottom aren't going to stick and that they come off easily. So I'm just taking Mission flour tortillas. I like using flour tortillas better for my enchiladas. I don't like the way the corn tastes on an enchilada. I know that traditionally it should be with a corn enchilada, but I like the flour much better. Another thing that I want to add to is I normally don't buy bagged cheese like this. I normally grate it myself. I didn't have time today. The reason why I don't buy the bagged cheese like this is because they put a powder in it that keeps the cheese from sticking together, and I just don't think it tastes as good as like shredding a fresh block by yourself, but you know, sometimes we don't have time for that. So now I'm going to get just a little bit of my meat, and I'm going to let my meat drain a little bit like this on the side. I'm going to let my meat drain like this a little bit on the side because I don't want it to be super liquidy. I just want to get the meat in there. I did want some of the juice from the meat and the sauce, that's why I added it back. But I don't want it completely soaked because then our tortilla is going to get soggy, and we don't want that. And then you want to layer it close on the bottom so that way when you roll it, it's much easier to roll. You don't want it like directly in the middle, it's gonna be hard for you to roll. So then you just tuck it, and then I kind of squeeze everything out into the middle. That way you're not left with a lot of extra tortilla on the side. So I just do this over and over again until my dish is completely full. Now I have rolled all of my enchiladas and they're ready to go in the oven. The reason why I didn't put the sauce on them at first was because I want them to be able to get crispy on top. So I'm going to put these in the oven. Don't mind my temperature gauges on my oven. This oven, it has like given me problems. So the temperature that it would be at would be about 375. I'm gonna put them in there for about 10 minutes. And while I'm doing that, while they're in there baking, I'm going to go ahead and get started on my rice. If you guys watched the last video that I was showing my rice recipe in, I'm doing the exact same rice recipe, except I'm adding limes and cilantro this time. Okay, these are getting nice and crispy. I don't want them completely browned. They're getting there. I want to add the sauce at this point. I don't like too much sauce on my enchiladas, but I am going to make sure that I at least cover every one just a little bit. Now I'm going to add more cheese. I ended up doing these ones just cheese enchiladas over here for my son. In our house, we can never have too much cheese. You can also, if you wanted to, just use the green enchilada sauce. I do like doing that one, but Jordan said he wanted to do the red. This is the salsa, or the enchilada sauce that I use. It's just the Las Palmas medium salsa. I have found that this is the best enchilada sauce. Now I'm going to put these back in the oven until I see that the cheese is completely melted, and I like the cheese to be like a little bit brown. So this is probably going to need another probably 10 minutes. And I might at the end, depending on how they look, turn the oven on broil for a little bit so the cheese gets nice and crunchy. I'm going to check my enchiladas. I ended up turning them on broil for about 3 minutes just so that everything could get nice and crispy. I got out my guacamole that we made earlier, and now I'm just going to put everything together.